additional discussion?
If they really wanted to rattle Middle America, they did a small town instead of a big town.
Remind me sometimes I'll tell you an exercise I went to when I was in the school system 10 years ago, what they were talking about then. Okay, yeah. Purely random, totally unexpected.
Yes, sir.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to call this meeting to order. Let's all rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now have a moment of silence or a moment of your conscience. Thank you. We will now turn to the agenda. We have a couple of adjustments to the agenda. Items 6 and 7, we will request to be moved to closed session for personnel. And under item 10, B and D will be deleted. All right, do we have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Rice. Second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wetchell. All those in favor, raise your right hand. The amended agenda has been approved. Our chairman tonight is visiting us by internet. Hello, Wayne from Indianapolis. We're supposed to be out there watching, so if a half dozen phones ring, that means that he really is, and he's calling back to harass us. But he's in Indianapolis tonight with his NASCAR activities. All right, let's move now to the minutes of May 12, 18, June 20, and June 23rd. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes as presented to us?
Mr. Chairman, the minutes of June 23rd, item 4, paragraph 2, the second sentence doesn't, I don't remember that. That certainly was not in my motion. I don't know if that was an editorial comment that was added later, but that was not what we voted on in terms of the landfill.
I actually do not recall that either. Okay. That is on the first page of the June 23rd minutes, last sentence of that first page.
I actually went back and looked at the video, and my motion was that the landfill be open for 5.5 days.
Okay. Would you move to have that corrected?
I would.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Rice to have that adjustment to the minutes, striking the last sentence of that page. Do I have a second? I'll second that motion. Any other, does that need to be added to the motion for any other corrections or additions?
I think discussion would be in order real quick on that.
Discussion, sir.
I didn't go back and review the tape, but the best I can recall, I think I was the one that suggested that we review it quarterly. I don't think that was part of the motion.
Okay.
Is that not, is that how the rest of you remember?
You did, in the video, you did say that, but historically, when we have the minutes, I'll call that an editorial comment that you made, because what we were voting on was the motion. And I don't understand why that was in there. I mean,
I didn't type that as a part of the motion. I typed it as just an extra sentence because it's my understanding you all agreed to look at it quarterly to the winter.
I think if you go back and review the tape, I think I made the comment at the end that no strings attached. The landfill will be open for 5.5 days, and that was the end of the motion.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't have a problem with us I mean, we need to do our due diligence as a board by making sure anything in the county that the proper cost is maintained. But I have not, historically, we do not make those generalization comments as I have seen in the past. I mean, we could say that about anything. We could say that about the library. We could say that about the DSS. We could say that about the health department or anything else we were talking about. But I don't remember us saying that we would go back and review this on a quarterly basis. I do not remember.
This was a new thing, you see, and it's not like a health department and these things that's established. So that's probably the reason that came up, you know, and that's, we talked about the amount of time that, or the amount of people that use this, so, you know, it doesn't matter as far as I'm concerned about going back and doing it quarterly, but that's the reason it came up.
Right. Well, I guess I'm saying a motion was made,
Right.
which I made, that the landfill be open for 5.5 days. That was the motion that we had before us that we needed to vote on. And I don't have a problem with your comment at all, but the motion was that the landfill would be open for 5.5 days, period. And that passed, I think it was 5-0.
That was. Yeah.
That's fine.
And I don't have, I mean, see, this is the kind of thing that, from a common sense perspective, I would expect that our county manager, if something was going on with any department, that he would bring that to our attention. And, you know, we would not have to have that in the minutes in order for us to be made aware of a situation and bring it to the board's attention, and then we decide what we want to do with it. I don't have any problem with that. I'm not trying to say that we would, you know, forever, the landfill would be open 5.5 days. But if it proves that that is not the case, then, you know, we'll deal with it at that time. But we just normally have not had those editorial comments on our motions and our votes. And I just that wasn't my motion. That's the point that I'm trying to get across to you. Quite simple.
All right. Any other comments?
No.
Okay. Mr. Whistle? Any other comment?
No, I don't recall the phrase "no strings attached," but I don't think I would have voted for it had I heard that.
Okay. Are there any other suggested corrections, additions to the minutes?
I'll just say, as I recall, not the minutes, that's not critical, as you said, of what's in the minutes, but what I remember was there was discussion about only doing it for 3 months or something, and that was decided. Not everybody was pretty clear that would not be the approach. And then I think Commissioner Becker made a comment that he would expect a review, keep it going, but report the numbers. That's how I understand it, which means it keeps going. I'll let y'all know, but there's no re-up type of situation. That doesn't really pertain to the sentences in the minutes, but that's how I understood the discussion to go and how.
And I mean, I have no problem with looking at it monthly.
Yeah.
I mean, not one problem whatsoever. The problem I have is the motion that was made. I think we should have stopped with and not put the last sentence in. That's, you know, and we'll vote, we'll see, and we'll move on to the next topic.
All right, all discussion. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented with the deletion of the last line of the first page of the minutes of Thursday, June the 23rd, let it be known by raising your right hand. All opposed? The minutes have been approved as amended. I do not believe there is anyone who has signed up for public comment. I want to welcome everyone this evening, and glad to have you here, and welcome everyone who is watching us on the internet. And we
Mr.
will,
Chairman,
yes, sir.
I may have missed it, but I think that was just a motion for the June 23rd minutes. There were a couple of
Okay.
other sets of minutes.
All right, I may have misspoke. I'm new at this. I'm learning what I'm doing.
OJT.
You got that right. All right, and thank our very dependable county manager for making sure that we do this correctly. So we now need to have a motion for May 12, May 18, and June 20th.
So moved. I move that they be approved as submitted.
I would second that.
Motion by Commissioner Wetchell, second by Commissioner Rice. All those in favor, let me know by raising your right hand.
Until he gets it right.
So shall it be spoken, so shall it be done. Thank you, Forrest. Now, having passed public comment, the next item on our agenda is Shelly Foreman, who's the Senior Director of the Smoky Mountain Center. Glad to have you with us, Cecilia.
Would you like me at the podium or at the chair? Where do you usually?
At the podium, there's a mic, or wherever you're comfortable.
Okay, fine. Can
You might need to adjust that mic a little bit if you're going to use it. It's got about a 1 foot range on it.
I'll talk loud. Thank you. Let
We
me play
actually-
myself over here.
This Foreman, we have, speak in the mic if you can, because we won't be able to hear it online.
Okay. Thank you. My name, again, is Shelly Foreman. I'm the Senior Director for County Relations for Smoky Mountain Managed Care Organization. I would like to take just a few minutes of your time tonight to give you a brief update, just sort of an overview of some information generally about services in the community, as well as hitting some highlights of Smoky's community reinvestment plan, which is very exciting. As you probably remember, Smoky Mountain is charged with managing Medicaid, state and local funds for individuals who need mental health, substance use, and developmental disability services. We do that through contracting with a variety of providers to accomplish that goal. We also, in each community, have what we call a comprehensive care model, which ensures that each community has a center where people know to go to be able to access assessments. If they're having a crisis, there's a mobile crisis management team that is available that works with local law enforcement as needed, as well as a variety of outpatient services and community-based services. In Madison County, that organization is RHA, and they have been long in your community. One of the things that Smoky started doing probably 6 months or so ago is developing what we're calling a county dashboard report. We actually, myself and several staff, came out and met with Forrest and went over some of the information related to the number of people served in the community for the last fiscal year. We went through where people were getting services, what counties they were most likely going to, if not Madison County, which adjoining counties, depending on the type of services, and just did a general overview. Since that time, we've sent another quarterly report, and that information is available to you. We send that to the county manager in each county, as well as you may remember, Smoky Mountain has a county commissioner advisory board. Chairman Brigman is the appointed member from Madison County to that board that meets quarterly. When mental health reform, actually the Medicaid waiver came into effect in 2012, the board structure changed for Smoky, and because of that, they established the County Commissioner Advisory Board so that we would continue to hear the input necessary from each county. Just a few facts. In the last year, the last fiscal year, over 1,000, nearly 1,100 people in Madison County were served, both through RHA and a number of other behavioral health providers and developmental disability providers. Of those, the vast majority were Medicaid, which is good. That means that Medicaid is paying for their services. There were over 800 of those folks, and 275 individuals with state funding. In the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we've already seen a slight, what you would say per capita or per percentage into the year increases. We are now up to 817 folks that have been served in the community, people from Madison County. One of the things that Smoky very much does is trying to have a community presence. And one of the ways we do that is through a service called Care Coordination. Care Coordination is something that Smoky provides, not our network. We have Care Coordination staff that work with every individual who is on our innovations waiver, who has Medicaid services for people with developmental disabilities, as well as a variety of people with mental health or substance use issues that are acutely and seriously mentally ill. They're going in and out of hospital cares. They may be showing up at the emergency rooms. And at this time, we have 142 folks in the county that get care coordination services. And that's just a real safety net service that we offer, working with our providers. The other thing Smoky does at the community level is we have staff called community education specialists, as well as crisis services specialists. Those are two different folks, one that works very closely with law enforcement, Sheriff's Department, hospitals, to deal specifically with crisis services and trying to keep people out of emergency rooms and getting them resolved quickly. The other community education specialist, Ashley Edmonds, works with a variety of other community groups, any kind of planning group in the community where any kind of behavioral health issues might be related to, she's participating. As you all probably remember, one of the major goals of having a public agency manage Medicaid services versus a private insurance model was that cost savings that were happening or that we achieved, which we knew there would be cost savings when you began managing Medicaid, could be invested into the community versus seen as profits for shareholders. So after going through an extensive process of consolidating with the old Western Highlands program, which took up some amount of funding to accomplish that, we now have really been able to achieve some of those cost savings, and we have a 2-year plan, which I believe you have in your packet, which really highlight a whole variety of initiatives that have been identified through gaps analysis that we have done in the community, talking with a whole variety of consumers, families, community stakeholders about what are the mission critical services. I'm just going to highlight a few of those for you tonight. I know you have other business, but I would invite you to look at these, and we will continue to come out and give you updates as some of these programs unfold. One of I think the most exciting projects, and one of the things Madison County can be very excited about, is a project called C3 at 356. For those of you that were a part of the Western Highlands program years ago and have any history with that, you remember that was the office site for Western Highlands when they were the managed care organization. Because of its design and proximity to the hospital, we thought that that would be a wonderful facility to be able to be close to the hospital and have really a comprehensive approach to urgent, emergent, and routine behavioral health issues. C3 at 356 is well underway. Right now, there is a comprehensive outpatient center that is occurring at C3, which I'll just say C3 from this point forward so I don't keep tripping over my tongue. RHA runs the whole center. They do have support for NAMI, the National Alliance of the Mentally Ill, where they have services available to folks who come into the center. They have, which is something the first in our region, a 24/7 urgent care center where anyone can go who feels that they are needing help in a crisis, can go to get an assessment and disposition. They have a peer support program there that really helps people who are in need of services have access to peer support specialists who have lived experience that can help them navigate the system. And one of the things that will be happening in the fall is the move of the old Neil Dobbins Center into C3. That is a facility-based crisis, which is a facility that can actually keep individuals who are experiencing crisis for some number of days. It's one step below inpatient hospitalization. As we know, the state hospital system continues to be a challenge, especially for people who are indigent and have no Medicaid services. So the Neil Dobbins Center will move in. I don't think the sheriff's here tonight, but we would love, and we will be talking to him more about a component of that program, which will be an involuntary commitment drop-off site, which will mean that for a person who is involuntarily committed, if they go to that center, there will be someone there that the sheriff will be able to relinquish custody or transfer custody until the assessment and disposition process has occurred, because many times it's getting a place for someone to go that takes a period of time. Lastly, related to that, the old Neil Dobbins facility is going to be open as a child facility-based crisis center, which is just a #1 need in our community. Because of some of the changes in funding, those centers have not been able to really develop and grow throughout our state. But because of some recent changes, we now are going to be able to have some child facility services for kids who are in crisis. And that's especially relevant to DSS, juvenile services, some of our sister agencies that we work with. The last thing I'll say about crisis services, and I sort of focus on that because many times those are services where a lot of resources are used in the community, whether it's a hospital, emergency room, sheriff's department, our staff, provider staff, as well as just the significant impact it has on individuals and families, is we are also committing a significant amount of funding to specialized developmental disability crisis services. If a person has a behavioral health issue and a developmental disability, it becomes very, very challenging to find a place for those folks to be. So we're going to be working to develop respite care, crisis care for that specialty population. Just a few more things I wanted to mention to you because I think they have such an impact on the community. We know that our region in Western North Carolina and the state of North Carolina, as well as the nation, we're facing an epidemic of opioid use. We have substance abuse at every level, but in the last several years, the use of opioid pain medication, whether it's prescription use or gained illicitly, heroin, fentanyl, those are all very serious drugs that are causing a lot of overdoses, deaths, and then catastrophic to individuals' lives. Through some of our crisis services, we will be working to focus on those addiction issues. We also put $100,000 we gave to the North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition to support the use of naloxone, which is a drug that first responders can use, law enforcement, that immediately reverses an overdose as it's occurring. And it saves lives. I mean, multiple 20 lives just in, I think, the last quarter have been saved through the use of naloxone. And there's been a lot of training going on. A lot of law enforcement agencies and EMS have been using it to help stop the effects of overdose. Lastly, around addiction, one of the things we know is that many times people do go through treatment and they're doing well. But sometimes they need some transitional housing to help them be successful. Sometimes it's best for them not to go back to the home they came from or the community they came from, and they need a little bit longer support. So our substance abuse recovery housing initiative will serve individuals in each county. We will be developing contracts with a whole variety of transitional housing options that people can go to so that they can have a little bit longer term in success. The last thing I will mention tonight, well, I think the last thing I will mention tonight, like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but this is something that's truly exciting for departments of social services and for our whole community. Smoky, our providers, and many times are intimately involved with departments of social services, with the people that we jointly serve. A number of those individuals are kids in foster care. We are working to develop a full continuum of care for kids in DSS custody or families that are working with DSS. But a very special program that we're implementing is the LifeSet program. Youth Villages is a national child serving agency. They, along with, I always love to say this, Steven Tyler, the lead singer with Aerosmith, who really became enamored with this program when he saw the results, put several $1 million into the initiation of LifeSet program. And Smoky is the first managed care organization in North Carolina to implement it. And it's a program that works specifically with kids who are transitioning out of foster care. There are kids from 16 to 21 who are ready to move on from foster care, but many times have not developed the life skills and vocational skills and educational skills they need to be successful and stop the cycle of abuse or neglect that they have come from. So this LifeSet program will be implemented in each county to work specifically with that population, and we're looking at a lot of really good results from that. There are many, many more programs that we have we've already initiated or are working on. Jail diversion programs, legal support, legal aid for people that need help because of disabilities and getting their disability funds, or helping them with housing, helping them really manage being successful in the community. Special programs for veterans. There are a whole variety of those programs, but I will stop there. I know I've taken a lot of your time, but I think it's really a very positive impact of the public management of Medicaid to be able to see that we are going to be able to use those cost savings to expand services in the community and to meet really important needs. And I think that's something worth really celebrating.
All right. Thank you, Shelly, and thank the organizations that you work with. There is no doubt that we have, both in Madison County and in the whole country, a serious mental health and provider issue. We have seen just again this week the failures of having safety nets for individuals and the catastrophic consequences. And very proud of the work that you do. A couple of us here sit on our local DSS board, and we very much appreciate the work that you, Smoky, and RHA and others do. And oftentimes it is unheralded. I mean, it's there, and you do your work, and people don't appreciate the amount of effort and time. And thank you for coming and sharing your efforts with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan Cody.
Good evening.
Evening.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I want to present a couple items tonight, mainly for informational purposes. But the first item that I have is the some recognition for the USA Cycling Championships. And just to give you a little bit of a background, the county hosted the USA Cycling Championship back in May of this year. The dates were May 13th through 15th. May 13th was here in Marshall. May 14th was in Burnsville, and then May 15th was back again in Marshall. The county was a participant in that last year, and Ms. Connie Mullen did a kind of a door-to-door to do a economic impact for the businesses in downtown Marshall. They had to close the road and do some other things. And the basic assessment from that was there was a positive $25,000 gain for the businesses in downtown Marshall during that event. There was some concern with the potential road closures and other things, how it was affected. No official assessment has been done this year, but based on the discussions I've had with some of the business owners and based on the discussions a few others have had, we feel like there was pretty close to the same impact to the businesses direct in Marshall. I know the people in Burnsville and Yancey County were excited to have it and would love to participate again in another partnership with us. But the reason that I'm here is to present some recognition. This doesn't take place by itself. And the amount of hours and effort that it takes to put this event together, to pull all the proper channels together, and to make sure that the right pieces are in place, it just can't be overstated. And so Ms. Connie Mullen, who is here tonight in the crowd, took that upon herself to be the coordinator for this event. And I really wouldn't be able to tell you how many hours she put in of her own time to do this. And to the best of my knowledge, received no payment whatsoever for any of the efforts that she did. She went to town council meetings. She came before you guys at commissioners meetings. She went to Yancey County, coordinating with other towns and also being rejected by the town of Weirville, who did not want to be a participant in this event. But the effort that she put forth to make sure that all of the pieces were in place and that the event was successful, I feel like deserves recognition. And at our last Economic Development Board meeting, before she had the opportunity to make it there, the Economic Development Board voted to present her with a certificate of appreciation. And I would like to present her with that if she would come up at this time. Thank you for the efforts that you did. So I tried to conceal it from her, so.
Well, I got the agenda and I was like, I don't know what they're doing. Did you want a picture? Are you doing a picture? All right, that's fine. I'll be here. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was,
Thank you, Donny.
I really appreciate the opportunity. It was very cool for the entire county and for Yancey County. Mars Hill did very well as well. And so it got out of just Marshall. And that was my fear. Once we had the opportunity with Yancey, it was like really cool that we can engage more of the community than just Marshall. So really appreciate the opportunity.
I think the use of the dormitories at Mars Hill was phenomenal for the.
Rick's idea.
All right, good job, Rick. You guys make a good team. But anyway, I know all the restaurants in Mars Hill that weekend stayed packed, and all the business owners I spoke with were thrilled.
Yeah, it was good. So we got to find another thing.
Yeah,
That's right. That's your new mission.
I do appreciate the time that you allowed me to present that, and I do want to thank Connie personally for the work she put in. It was a tremendous effort, and I deem it a very successful event. So the second item that I have on the agenda is to present to you a report that was generated by Thomas Merck on behalf of Key Oak Advisors and AHIA Incorporated, which is Amrita Yoshi. And this report deals with the Rural Business Opportunity Grant that we received through the USDA. And I will not highlight everything in the report. I provided a copy for each one of you to read. But what I would like to share is just a few things that I feel like come out of the report that's very beneficial for us. The report is going to help us to be able to establish some basic guidelines and boundaries of where we can determine tech companies and whether or not tech companies is a viable option here in Madison County. One of the objectives is to determine how attractive Madison County is to technology businesses. And, can we accelerate efforts to grow those businesses here, bring those businesses in? The research that went into this has been ongoing since last summer through surveys. It has been through face-to-face contact meetings. It's been through different phone conversations and other research and data analysis. But what I wanted to do is present to you some of the takeaways that I had from this. Ultimately, the goal of this report is to determine the viability of whether Madison County can support a technology business or grow a technology business. But what happened through this report is that we were able to take that further and that we were able to establish that we can be viable. But we was also able to determine that we can be a training ground for tech employers, and that we can be a location for not only an incubator, small tech company, but a larger tech firm. The research will allow us to go through our daily walk in the Economic Development Office, using it as a recruitment measure as well. Mr. Mark developed what I would call a low-cost domestic sourcing model, which he outlines in there. And that model consists of 4 things: the cost of doing business, the workforce, the business and political environment, and the quality of life that's in each county. Those 4 things compiled together give us a fair assessment of where Madison County is compared to other counties and compared to other states. A few area of needs that he found when he used that model for Madison County was that our lack of economic incentives, or guidelines to economic incentives, the lack of a technology ecosystem within our county or within our region, and this would be a formal ecosystem. We have found that there are some informal ecosystems out there. The cost of living, which is an issue in our region overall, and that affordable housing. He also found that having a technology-based secondary educational system was lacking in Western North Carolina. There's none of the universities are really putting out specific programs dedicated to technology sector things. And he also said that the available resources in our area for technology is lacking in some regards, and whether that be research and development or the lack of really high-speed internet. But what we were left with these with these challenges, are some opportunities that we can take from them to move forward. And I feel like we have the ability to grow a company here in Madison County based upon this report. I think we're proving that we can attract creative minds to this area. We're positioned to succeed. Tom found that there are other areas that have similar challenges to us, but they also have greater challenges with the different cost of living and housing markets. He feels like that we have a better opportunity there to grow our housing market and lower our cost of living. And then finally, one of the things that he felt that was the best is that we are adaptive in our workforce development. He saw in the last year to 2 years how our workforce development officers are changing, how from the regional approach we're taking a different step toward developing workforce. He believes that this will be a key. For us personally here in Madison County, we are fixing to launch the TechHire Madison program, which will be a training program, a coding boot camp that will work with some specific employers. We'll work with Tactile South, and we'll provide a specific coding boot camp that when these people come in, they'll begin to train on specific things related to technology, coding, and development. And then when they leave, the hope is that we'll have some employers lined up that they will be able to walk out of there and take a job. So those are some of the opportunities we have coming from that. Our next steps are going to be to put legs on this report and try to take some action with it. We're already developing that with our TechHire Madison, and that we're going to try to actively market Madison County as a viable option for that based on this report. So do any of you have any questions in regards to the report itself?
Well, it's an excellent, in-depth report. And I would encourage anyone who has not read it to get a copy of it, take a look at it. But it is probably, I think it's safe to say, the most detailed analysis we've probably had that I can recall in my lifetime in terms of where we are and what we can do. I want to compliment Ryan and Forrest and Sarah and everybody else that was involved in this process, and Amanda and everybody else who I know put in a lot of time. But the first thing you've got to know is where you are so you can know where you can go.
Yeah.
And this helps us with that enormously.
I think it was a pretty honest representation. I read it over the weekend.
Yeah.
Our deficiencies that we had, I think a lot of us knew we had them, but a lot of times it's real easy to not want to admit that we have those deficiencies. Do we have a game plan in place, or are we still working on that?
We're still working on it. I mean, from my perspective, we're going to seek out a couple of the grant opportunities so that we can continue our relationship with Tom, but also to take it to that next level so that we can see the recruitment take a more active approach. But also begin this training program. With any luck, this training program will take off in September. So, and that's going to correlate to the next item I have. But yes, I think we're moving in the right direction. Just a slow crawl.
Does Tom have networking opportunities to where he can possibly introduce us to people who are looking to get in at the ground level?
He has,
Good.
and we've been successful in making a couple of those connections.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you, Ryan.
Any other questions about that?
Gentlemen, any other comment?
All right. Well, that takes me kind of into the third item I had on there. I've given each one of you a press release that came June 27th. And this press release was issued in the White House blog. And it's seizing the tech hire opportunity in rural America. I won't go into full detail. You all have that to read, but I did want to present to you that as of June 27th, Madison County was named a tech hire community by the White House. And this is a partnership with Southwestern Virginia. It will encompass all of Western North Carolina, but Madison County is going to play a big role in that for Western North Carolina. We're excited about that based on some of the preliminary calls we've had and looking at some of the preliminary resources. We feel like that this is going to be a tremendous opportunity for the county to tap into some different resources, both public and private, that will allow us to do better at our technology training and also build that talent pipeline, but allow us to take that next step in making those connections to bringing technology companies in here to Madison County. It's a great initiative to kind of goes along with the workforce options that the Mountain Area Workforce Development Board has been doing. We are looking to put people in jobs that are trained and highly skilled at what they do. Instead of just throwing somebody out there and telling the employer to train them, we want to train those people and let the employer continue to train them and see them excel. So we are excited about that. I felt like I should present that to you guys, and we'll take the next steps with that hopefully here in the coming weeks and months. Any questions in regards to that?
I just appreciate the work you and Sarah are putting into all this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your support. So,
Any other
that's
comments?
all I have. Nobody else has.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, sir. For those of you that have the agenda, again, items 6 and 7 have been amended to closed session later. Mr. Lawson.
I hope you have in your package the update for this month. We're operating only on a 3-week schedule since the last update, but in your summary that is on the page with my letterhead on it, you'll see that there were actually 10 new files that were sent to me from the tax office. On all of those 10 files, we have commenced title work, which is the first step in order to file the complaint. So thanks to Lori for sending those over, and I'm sure she'll have another batch for me soon. The next section, there are 7 files and names listed on those. Those are orders that have been assigned by the clerk of court or either a district court judge, which will allow me to proceed with advertising those particular properties for sale. That's a major step. So Clayton, you asked about when you would start seeing some of those notices in the paper. You'll start seeing them before your next meeting, because those orders will allow us to move forward with those. And then we have had 2 of the cases that we've actually filed since we started this process. They come in, and in the last 3 weeks, they completely paid all of their fees and all of their costs. And the actions that we commenced against those 2 parties have been dismissed and taken care of.
And you've got a question real quick, on your first block of people, and I don't want to publicly embarrass anybody, but the top name on the first block is the same name as the last
Right.
name on the last block. So
They came in.
that's the
and
same
they
action,
paid.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that one is resolved.
Those were sent
Gotcha.
over, and I believe even before we thought that action, they paid. I don't know what Lori did to them to scare them into paying. I wish all of them went that fast. Those are indeed the same.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Forrest?
Okay, just, since it has only been a few weeks since you did last meet, do have a few updates. One is the end of year tax collection. We collected, the tax office collected $173,059 more than budgeted for the previous year. So that, should really be commended for that work. Had that money not been there, obviously we would have had a more difficult time with our budget. There would have been a number of things we would not have been able to do, and that's of course on top of that amount coming. That increase is really adding to the similar increase from the previous 2 or 3 years as well. Lori's still figuring out the exact percentage based on the levy and the releases and that sort of thing as the year went on, but we did hit 95%. We had budgeted for 94% collection rate. So we hit the 95. This year's is budgeted for 95%. So we're making good progress there. The courthouse, if you have not been down there, is very close to coming together. The walls have been painted, the floors are in, they're being sanded and finished. The doors and trim have been returned, they've been stripped. Look really good. Those are going back up probably starting Thursday. The ceiling fans, lighting fixtures, that sort of thing will be going in toward the end of this week or next week. So we're very close to putting the finishing touches on those 3 rooms and then moving forward with the heating and air issues that you all funded for next year. Countertop is another thing that needs to be fixed in the cashier area. I think they're selecting that later this week and getting that from nearby. So we're very close to that portion, those 3 offices being back in working order. The human resources position has been posted. It's out there now, and hope to start reviewing people in the next few weeks and talking to you all about potential candidates for that position. The closing on the old jail, the contract, the initial contract that was always being upset that we were dealing with, allowed a 30-day due diligence period and closing within 45 days. So that due diligence period ends on July 23rd. Closing will occur no later than August 5th, unless we see that there's a way to get that sooner, and we're going to hopefully do that, but that's really up to the buyer. Moving right along on that. And legislatively, I mentioned to you all, I think last month, maybe before, that the Senate had passed a bill to get rid of the electronics recycling program, which would get rid of both the requirement that we recycle the electronics and also remove that cost. The House did not take that up for adjournment. So maybe next year is always the hope on that. Any questions on that or anything else?
Questions, comments? All right, thank you, Forrest. Darlyne?
have in your packets the financial report for the month of June. I'll stress at this point that this report is not totaled out for June. This is through today, through the day. Because there will be accruals for invoices for services in June and for receipts.
One major, commissioners point out, one major revenue source is another month of sales tax and also vehicle tax. And based on trends, what we've been getting, that's at least $300,000. Still coming.
Yes.
Some expenses too, but
We're hoping there's not a whole lot more expenses. We're stressed from one departments to get those invoices in to us. I know there will be stragglers.
Any other comments, observations from members of the board?
Well, and I know the DSS revenues run a little bit behind.
They do.
I think in the past, it's run up to 90 days
They
in order
can.
to get that
Yes, it can.
where it needs to be. Do we anticipate that being the same?
Well, I have to give a Connie the check, but I know that the billing for June will be going in as soon as I can get those reports to DSS. So that's going to put it, at least that much behind. Medicaid, those types of things, even for health department, those will be coming in. Something just whenever Medicaid decides to send us our money. So, and I know last year I got a payment in lieu of taxes in October. That was for the fiscal year that ended in June. So.
Right. How does that actually impact our audit?
Our audit,
Yeah.
anything received after June 30th, that is for that fiscal year, or anything paid after June 30th for that fiscal year, shows on your audit. I have to do accruals for that. So it is in the correct year.
All right, any other questions?
Of course, I just have a comment.
Yeah.
And I'll direct this to you, and you can say whether you think it's something we should pursue or not. We pay a lot of money for our audit each year, or I feel it's a lot of money. We have one meeting with the auditors at the end of when the audit's completed. We don't have much discussion while they're actually here doing the audit. Could we possibly have a pre-audit conference with them? Because different commissioners may have things on their bullet list that they want to make sure that is getting inspected. Could we implement that?
Anyone that you all would like to meet with, we can certainly check their availability, which I assume they would be willing to do it based on how we worked with them before.
I've done it before.
Well, they're starting now, but they're very early in it. So if that's something the board wants to do, we can set that up.
I just think it'd be a good idea, just, find out, if we get a list from them, here's what we're gonna look at. And here's what we're not gonna look at. Because we know they don't look at everything. So I just think it would be, for the money we spend, that we don't want to, I guess, get in a situation where we'll make the bill go up. But
They do a test sample of each and everything. They
okay.
don't look at every invoice, but they will give me a list of maybe 100, 200 checks.
Right.
I don't know what those are gonna be until they give them to me, and we have to go through them with them.
I just like to see the board, I think the board needs to be more involved on the front end versus being totally reactive on the back end.
Good idea.
The actual audit will begin the second week in August, so we probably need to do it before then.
Good comment. Other observations, comments? Darlyne, releases,
Okay.
refunds.
Yes, the June vehicle releases and tax refunds and releases are in your packet, so if you have any questions, Lori is available to answer those.
And thank you again to you and your departments. Good work.
Well, we're supposed to be off today.
Well, it is only 8 o'clock and change, so. Does anyone have any questions for?
Thank you, Lord.
Right. These have to be approved.
Yes.
There's no other comments or observations. The chair will entertain a motion to approve these as presented. We are in the refunds and releases.
You want to do the vehicle?
We will do them all together. There's no reason. We can do all under one umbrella for all tax releases and refunds. No one else moves. I will move that we accept the report that Darlyne has presented.
I'd second that.
Second by Commissioner Rice. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? No. Thank you, Darlyne.
Thank you.
We have now come to that point in the meeting where under General Statute 143-318-11, I will accept a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of personnel and property acquisition. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Rice,
Second.
second by Commissioner Wetchell. All those with a rising vote, we will adjourn to closed session.
And once you got a piece of paper,
Several
you got a
things.
scrap, give me a scrap piece.
Which type of scrap would you like?
Whatever you want, whatever you want to give me.
Well, a copy of the law. I actually printed that out today. I wanted to read that before tonight.
There you go.
Well, I would agree.
You're welcome. That was my
By the way,